Right, what's up, guys? It's my first video, so kind of learning the ropes here. But wanted to talk today about a couple things that have been on my mind a little bit, and it is Sunday, and I have started a church, so I figured I'd speak a little bit on Apollonius, and just what's going on in the world today. Um, we got a lot of interesting stuff going on. Mayan calendar, Egyptian calendar. You know, the next 6 months here is the most talked about time in history, and a lot of people don't realize that. For those of you guys that don't know me, my name's Jonathan Wiley Roberts. Friends call me Jake. Some of you might even know me as Simon. Changed my name in college for the Chandelian numerology when I had read Linda Goodman's star signs, but don't really use that name much anymore. But yeah, just want to be honest about who I am. Just a little background kind of on how I came into all this stuff. A lot of the things I'll be talking about are controversial. Not so much controversial, but they will test the limits of your reality as you know it. So before I get into that, I just wanted to give you a little background on me, my family, kind of where I come from, sort of how I got into all this. When I was a kid, I was 7 years old, and that year in my life, I was visited by an entity. Some of you might know him as Pan. Some of you, at the time, I didn't know what he was. And it's still a little bit of a question mark, but, it looks like he was Pan, possibly Baphomet. But at any rate, I would wake up same times, like 3 o'clock in the morning, when I was 7, and I would have to go to the bathroom. And in the house I grew up in, there was a long hallway that turned at the end to go down to the bathroom. You got to walk down the hallway first. And at the end of the hallway, there was a door that went into our guest room. And as I would start to walk down this hallway, the door would swing open very slowly, and out will come an entity about 3 or 4 feet tall, goat legs, with like a goat legs with a man's body, and small blue horns. In fact, his whole body had a blue kind of hue to it. And what he would do is he would just come out and he would look at me, and I would, be trembling in fear, looking at something, that looked like the devil. And he would look straight at me, and he would go like this. And then he would go back into the room. He didn't really walk, he kind of floated. And then the door would shut. And, this happened to me, I don't know, between 50 and 100 times when I was at the age of 7. And I used to run into my mom's room screaming, all this stuff. But, no one ever really believed me. And as time passed, I, just kind of put it aside. It wasn't something that I was particularly fond of. It scared the shit out of me. And, I thought it was the devil. But it was later on in life, when I guess I was about 16 or so, we took a school trip with my high school, Avongrove, at the time. And we went to Greece. And when we got to Greece, I started looking around, and there's statues of this guy everywhere. And then I started reading, and I wasn't the only one that had seen him. It's been a long-standing thing. So without going, there's thousands of reports of people seeing Pan and this entity. So without going into a big history on that, um, that was kind of like my first real paranormal kind of experience. And it definitely, I think, opened my eyes to the fact that there are other things in this universe, there are other entities that we don't really know about. In fact, we don't know a lot. We're limited to our five senses, and as far as the workings of other dimensions and things, a lot of the times, we don't have a clue. Um, and one thing that society and a lot of the world leaders are Satanists. But it's the greatest lie that the devil ever told was that he didn't exist. And I think sometimes that people forget that, and they forget, not to be a naysayer or focus on the bad, but I think it's important to be aware of the reality and the duality of the universe in which we live in. So just to go back to a couple other things, recently this, um, I've just kind of recently became spiritual again in the last year or two. Um, you've been kind of asleep for a long time, um, but one of the important things I want to speak on today is the ascension and what's going on with the dimensional split coming up, and how that can be an easier transition for everyone, and good things are going to happen. But before we get into the good things and the dimensional splits, um, and mind calendar and all that good stuff, I just like to speak a little bit on my past, my history, and the family that I come from, and kind of another thing that sort of propelled me into all this. Um, my grandfather had died. I'll just give you a little history on my one grandfather. His name was Ben Selim Ben Smith. You can read the book "100 Minds" that made the market, and he was a man that in 1929 um, had done very well for himself. He had made $10 million, selling short on a company. I believe it was Anaconda Copper. I'm not sure about that, but at any rate, it was even one of his relatives he sold short on. But so he sold short on this company and he made 10 million in 1929. That was a lot of money back then. Um, if you run the time value, I think it's close to $100 billion in today's money. Um, so just to give you an idea, you could do a lot with that. And I used to always wonder, like, damn, how come I'm such a bum? Like this guy. And I really did. I wondered, like, what was going on, like how they were able to do things like that. A lot of these people. And so anyway, it wasn't till like years later that my grandfather, his son, had actually died. Ben Selim Ben was my great grandfather. And after um, his son, also named Bernard Eugene Smith, had died, I was looking at the little card thing, you get um, at the funeral. It says, like, some nice stuff about him and whatnot. And so anyway, I'm looking at it, and I'm reading, that he's an esteemed member of the Bohemian Grove. Thinking, what the fuck is a Bohemian Grove? And I didn't know, but I had this desire kind of inside of me to sort of understand where I came from and what these people were all about and what was really going on. Um, so I started to look into the Bohemian Grove, and um, you know, I encourage you all to look into this. Not take anything that I say Don't take my word for it, but do your own due diligence and look into it if you like. But in a nutshell, Bohemian Grove is a group of Satanists that meet in California every summer. They worship in front of a large stone owl. They worship Moloch, which is a satanic god. In Canaanite times, they used to sacrifice infants by the hundreds to this thing, Trojan horse style, whereby they would put the metal hands and then the fire underneath and all that. Some will argue that they're actually worshiping Minerva, which is an ancient Babylonian goddess, also of sacrifice. But either way, you get the point. It's pretty bad. When you go deeper, much like these secret societies, I joined the Freemasons. I was an entered apprentice. I started in with the rituals, thinking it was a good thing. But one thing that's important to know about these secret societies, uh, Freemasons, Skull and Bones, Order of the Golden Fleece, the Bohemian Grove, the Vatican, uh, these organizations at the top, they have off-world masters. Now, whether they be draconian reptilians or various types of different astral entities that they work with. They might not be in 3D. It doesn't really matter. At the top of these things, they're all taking orders, um, you know, from off-world influence, and I think that's important to think, to understand. And when you really, look at the hierarchies there involved, you see it's just that. Anytime you find something, an organization where these coveted hierarchies and secrecy goes on, you can pretty much believe it's nefarious and up to no good. Um, Real enlightened society, there are no hierarchies. Teachers, friends, people that work together to build people up. Uh, some people might be stronger, uh, in certain ways than others, but the hierarchy, the rank and file, the whole thing, it's very Orion based, and it's definitely the fabric of a service to self um, agenda. And while I'm on that, I'd just like to speak on source and where we all come from. Um, it is true that there's been a lot of DNA experiments going on the dark side, and that the dark ones have manipulated DNA to create various flesh temples, organisms, and things, and then they call themselves gods. Um, and yeah, they maybe they designed the temple and manipulated the DNA. However, they did not create souls, and they can't. Um, but when you talk about source, one thing that's very important to understand is that we all come from source and we all go back to source eventually. The only difference between good and evil is essentially if you're going with evolution or against the spheres of evolution. And that's essentially what it is. When you look at black magic versus white magic, you're in black magic, you're trying to uh, materialize things from the fourth dimension back to the third dimension. So it's going the wrong way. With white magic and evolution, you're trying to materialize things from the third into the fourth. So it's a matter of direction and simplicity. It gets a lot more complicated than that if you get into Dion Fortune and a lot of her really excellent work, the mystical Kabbalah, the cosmic doctrine, to name a few, are really great. But anyway, so back to my grandfather. This guy, he made all this money. He was in the Bohemian Grove, and I was, wondering what the Bohemian Grove's all about. I mean, on the surface, it's all world leaders that just go camping, and supposedly, talk, kind of like the Bilderbergs. But anyway, so these people, what had happened is he had actually got some insider trading to make all this money when he sold short. You got insider trading through J. Edgar Hoover, and I believe it was, who then, once he made all that money, he was kind of in their pocket. They had made him a made man at that point, and it was at that point he took a lot of this money and reinvested it with Roosevelt into the Manhattan Project. And if you guys understand uh, Freemasonry, Roosevelt was a 33-degree Freemason. Uh, a lot of David Wilcox got a lot of work on this. If you read some of his financial tyranny stuff, as an entered apprentice myself, and having witnessed some of the rituals firsthand, I can tell you it's a dark thing. It's a lot of threats. Like I guess I should be dead right now. But when you get into it, you think it's all a good thing in the first degrees. Then you get to the 28th degree, it's about renouncing Christ. 31st degree, you invoke Lucifer. And by the time you're a 33-degree Freemason, you're a full-blown Satanist. And, that's important to remember. So at any rate, Roosevelt and the Manhattan Project. For those of you guys who aren't really familiar with a lot of these different projects and things, well, there's a lot to do there. But definitely Preston Nichols, Stuart Swerdlow are just two guys that were on the Montauk Project, the Philadelphia Experiment, to name a few. But I would get into understanding some of these projects and really understanding the depth of what our governments have been capable of, especially like the Nazi Bell Project. You're talking about Stargates with the Philadelphia Experiment. You're talking about teleporting ships. Manhattan Project was just ugly. Obviously, we all know what happened there. Bombs, nuclear war. But these things are very real, and the government knows about them. In fact, you pay for them with your tax dollars. I heard a figure that it was outrageous, like 30 some out of every $40, goes to these things of tax dollars, and a lot of it's front. But I don't know. I'd have to look into that. But at any rate, they know it exists, and no one wants to talk about it. Everyone is just kind of like, oh, well, that can't really happen. But, when you think about Hitler, he was a guy that was after the Spear of Destiny, the Shroud of the Turin, the Ark of the Covenant. He was a known black magician. And, he knew that these things would ultimately lead to his power. That's why he wasn't so focused on land and gold and things, because he knew that wasn't the real power. And so I think that when people are looking at our history, you really got to take into the account the occult objectives of a lot of these people, that have been on both sides. Because it's a reality that no one wants to really talk about. Another thing with Hitler, which is ironic, I can't talk, is that he was funded by the Rothschilds, which Rothschilds, if you get into the Illuminati bloodlines and all that stuff, are up there. And they say that they're Jews, but in fact they're not. They're Satanists. And essentially what you have is a lot of these Jews at the top are in fact Satanists, with the Jewish religion as kind of a front for what they really do. When you look at, David Rockefeller is not Jewish. Okay. These people are not Jewish. And that's why you have the Rothschilds funded Hitler to exterminate all these Jews, because to them, those Jews aren't really Jews. They're just the people that really believe in the actual, Jewish, religion. They're actually good people, and they're just kind of going down, believing in that ideology. But that doesn't really matter to them because really they're into Moloch and Baphomet and Satan and, you know, taking over and, the whole reptilian agenda, um, which is, which I think deserves a little bit of attention just because of that. I mean, so they fund Hitler and they fund both sides of the war. Whoever wins comes out on the top. Then they have control. It's it's hard to squeeze all this stuff into. I thought that it would be a little easier explaining all that. Thing is you could spend days and hours and weeks and months looking at all the nefarious activity. Um, and that's good, but don't get too caught up in it. It's at this point in time, it's it's helpful for a history lesson, but some of it can drive you a little nuts when you see what these people are doing. A lot of talk about um, the end times and Jesus returning and all this and some savior coming to take us and everything. And I just like to speak on that. And that's not really how it's going to go down. In fact, um, one thing I think it's important for everyone to know is that, we all, like I said, we all come from source. We all return to source. We have it in us. And one of the things that any true Christ will teach is that these powers of raising the dead, healing the blind, the sick, they're not limited to a select few. These are things that people can develop, that people can do, and that are very real. It's not just this one special person that is going to save us from all this stuff. It's really about tapping into your own divinity, your own cells, your higher being within you, and letting that flow through. Letting your actions come from the fulcrum of the soul. That's not always easy in this world, obviously, but it's a lot of the stuff that is upon us is really it's really fascinating. Now, I just would like to speak a little bit more on Jesus Christ. And mind you, this is coming from someone that has a cross tattoo on their arm. Um, you know, I, I've been asking a lot of questions um, about the Church, the Vatican. Kind of what the real agenda is here, and what I've found, and you know, and this is my motivation behind the Church of Apollonius of Tyana, is a very, very sinister cover up that was um, not just limited to the Vatican, but to the dark powers of the time to enslave humanity and to control it. The true Nazarene, and you guys have probably seen some of you may seen this before, was in fact not Jesus Christ. It was a man named Apollonius of Tyana, and Apollonius was a guy that would embody what you would think of as a Christ. Very, very loving person, barefoot, um, with no hood, walked around. He healed the blind, he healed the sick, um, just ate fruits and berries, and was just a really um, enlightened guy. Um, One of the things that he talked about that was very, very important was that these powers were not limited to him. He was able to, raise the dead and heal the blind and do all these miraculous things because of the spirit with him in him. And it wasn't limited to him. It was something that we all had and could develop. And not only was Apollonius saying that you can do this, but he was saying, this is how. Here's the instruction manual. Come with me and I will teach you. And when you talk about Jesus's life, he's got a couple miracles, maybe a couple dozen. Apollonius had thousands. But what was so dangerous about him was that he was teaching peasants how to do it. And he was teaching everyone that their liberation was inside themselves. And this was very dangerous business to the Dark Ones, because when you're trying to control people, you can't have everyone just liberated. They need to have you, and that's why you need the Vatican to get into heaven. That's why you have to go there and repent for your sins with them, and they got to give you approval. And, I mean, hell, they even issued indulgences last month for the first time in whatever 200 years or something. I mean, indulgences whereby you can say, well, I'm a sinner, but I'd like to pay you guys to get me into heaven and just absolve my sins. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. If you look at the Pope right now, I mean, he looks like a Sith Lord from Star Wars. I mean, just if you want to look into the conspiracy of the Vatican and the popes, please do it. It's very obvious stuff. But I get distracted with that. So anyway, so they covered up Apollonius because they wanted to be that gateway. You need us to get to heaven. And the church, I mean, it's big business right now. Look at all, J.P. Morgan and all that, everything that's going on with the church right now. It's more like a corporation of the Vatican than it is, a real enlightened thing. You get into the Arizona Wilder testimonies about the Vatican, a lot of stuff. I'm not going to get into reptilian shapeshifters and aliens right now, but they are definitely a part of any satanic circle. So that's something to keep in mind. We can talk about that later. In the Illuminati bloodlines, but Apollonius, and this is just Sunday, so this is why I wanted to touch on Apollonius. Really was a wonderful person, and what he was trying to do is back then he was trying to get the Ascension off the ground, and he failed. We all didn't ascend, obviously, and but he didn't fail completely. Things go on, and it's only just a matter of time. But what he did is he really set the way, and I think, we need to rediscover that. And I'll bet you dollars to donuts, if we opened up that secret vault in the Vatican, we'd find a lot of stuff about Apollonius. But, this is also important, because Ascension has been around for a long time, and anyone's been able to do it at all times if you can really reach those levels. However, it's very hard to do that. So we're very lucky to be living in this time right now that the ancients have been talking about for thousands of years, because we're looking at a cosmic wave coming in from the center of galaxy, a DNA change, and essentially, an ascension. And what that is, more specifically, when I speak about ascension, is it's a split not only in the timelines but in dimensions as well. So when you have these stories of people that have ascended, essentially what they're doing is they're transcending death, and they're not having a physical death in the way that you would think of it. They're taking their vibrations to a higher level that we just can't see. And that's where you get a lot of the ascended masters, and things like that of old. But back to this timeline split that we're talking about, it's probably going to break down like this. Some of you might be watching this video after the first wave, wonder what the fuck just happened, and that's okay. But it's just, I feel it was important to talk about it. So essentially, what you're having is this month. I think we're going to see the first wave of ascension. Someone to check on this is Dr. Georgy Stankoff. Has done amazing work on the ascension, the light body process, and the real science of how it all fits together and works. So I commend him for that, and it's been big inspiration for me. I've been researching the ascension since I was 17. But life gets heavy, it wears you down, and sometimes you have a tendency to forget some of the great things that are really going on because of all the the negativity that we can deal with in this world. But back to the timeline splits. The first wave of Ascension is probably going to be, there's going to be 3 timelines. And let's actually just call these 3 worlds Earth A, Earth AB, and Earth B. Earth B is where all the negativity is. In this negativity, there's a lower vibration. And because of this lower vibration, it's not able to be in the higher realms. That's why you have duality here, because some of these evil service to self things can't exist in the more angelic, loving types of energy environments. It's like a death sentence to them, so they can't do it. So you got to do it here. But what we're going to have, and I believe this is going to coincide with the pole shift, is a fractal time split and a dimension split, where you're going to have Earth B, which is going to take a lot of the seriously negative entities out. They're going to go into their own little timeline, their own little world, and they're going to fight it out, and they're going to have to do what they have to do to learn their lessons, and eventually, even they are going to go back to source. It just might take a while. So that's for all the real bad people that want to be service to self, and just stick with the old Orion matrix and serve these old masters. Bad idea. It's gonna suck. Earth B, it's really gonna suck. Earth AB is going to be more for the people that are they're not bad people by any means. They just don't, maybe not necessarily shining good people. But they're just kind of in between, not like, St. Francis, but they're not Moloch, they're just people that need to learn. And I think where we're going to go with Earth B is in a direct, or Earth AB is in a direction where you're going to have a lot of people in the 4th dimension after the first timeline split that are going to be learning a lot of lessons and learning them very, very quickly in order for the December 21st event. Some say the 12th, some say the 23rd. In December, Sun goes red giant. We are going to have a split. It's going to happen. So, that's why we're looking earlier, though. In this month, it's the first wave, which I'll get to in a second. So, on Earth AB, you're going to be kind of learning everything, getting up to speed for the coming split that is going to really separate the wheat from the chaff. Now, the first wave of Ascension is probably going to happen this month, probably around next couple of days, maybe the Venus transit up to the summer solstice. We have a lot of really interesting energies coming in, and I don't know, for those of you who haven't seen it, look out. There's Nibiru's in the sky. You can see it. Things are getting ready to go down. Now, with the first wave, this is going to be the people that, and some people might not even know they're going to ascend, but if they're, a good person that really, is a service to others person and tries to do good, they're probably going to go through it anyway, even though they have no idea about the coming wave. It's just like radio signals. Like, just because I'm listening to 93.3 doesn't mean 93.7 is not also on. It is. I just can't hear it. And much is the same when you're talking about astral entities and some of those things. So, timeline A, again, that'll be the first wave of Ascension, and I think that's going to, that's going to be the best wave to be on, because you kind of get a, jump the gun, but, it's not the only one by any means. So, for those of you that, are interested in this stuff, if, this goes down and maybe you haven't believed it and thought it was all just crazy, and this happens and you come back and you find this, you're not lost. It's still all up to you. I mean, you have it in you. And I know that's kind of an overburdened, light worker phrase, you have it in you, but it is true. But not to pound that into the ground too much. So anyway, this is the Ascension that's coming. You know, you get into the Egyptian calendar and the Mayan calendar, and all that. You know, people have been talking about this for a very long time, and you know, the reason I think it's so important that we acknowledge Apollonius, you know, is because really he's the godfather of this. He's trying to do this a long time ago, and this was, you know, the story that just got covered up. Um, you know, dark powers don't want people to be spiritually enlightened entities. They can't be controlled that way. That's why you have a lot of this fluoride in the water, the GMOs in the food, the aspartame, the mercury in the vaccines, all of the stuff designed to dumb you down and to prevent you from, you know, being more in touch spiritually. You know, with things. You know, fluoride, for example, calcifies your pineal gland, which people talk about as the seat of the soul, your third eye, giving you visions, making you psychic, um, those sort of those things that they're very much in touch with, but they don't want you to believe in it again because the greatest lie is that they don't exist. Um, you know, not to be caught up in negativity. You don't have to be. In fact, it's good not to be. But I like to acknowledge it so I know where it is and can call it out as need be. A lot of these people that want to say, "Oh, don't do anything, just focus on the positive and don't say anything about the bad." Um, you know, that's all fine and good, but I think we do have a responsibility to stand up, and I don't think we'd be in this place if more people were trying to stand up for the real liberties and spiritual truths. We would never have gotten so far down and dumbed down in this whole process. So, um, call it out. I mean, and don't be afraid to, talk about it. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I mean, we're trying, here to kind of shed some light on some of this stuff. Um, I'm not fear mongering, As far as everyone's saying this is the end of times, uh, it's just the end of something. It's the beginning of something too. And I think what we're going to see is the end of the Orion Matrix and the beginning of something really great. So, uh, stay tuned and let's all just keep a positive attitude here. Um, Coming up, I think it's important for the Venus transit, if you guys can, if you're getting this beforehand, to just kind of come together, say a little prayer, um, try and tap in to Mother Earth and kind of feel her, and just feel the things align inside yourself, and feel the energies, and just focus on the light. I think that's going to help a lot, and the more people that do it, I think the smoother this ascension is going to be for everyone. So I guess I'm going to leave it there for today. Um, Give you guys some things to think about. If you want to look into a little more on Apollonius of Tyana, there's a book one of my forefathers actually wrote, Jonathan Manning Roberts. It's called Antiquity Unveiled, and you can Google it. There's a PDF that you can get online there for free. It's like one of the first ones that comes up. You can learn a little bit more about it. So yeah, get ready, guys. Things are going to start coming at us fast. So stay tuned. Be well. Be safe. And, we'll see you soon.